Good afternoon, Board of Managers. This is Matthew Hendrickson, and welcome to the 2025 Aquatic Invasive Species AIS Program Year-End Summary. Overall, this will focus on 7 lakes within the district with ongoing AIS management activities. The initial draft is available to be reviewed, and the final draft will be coming in January. This will cover all AIS activity. However, see the Watercraft Inspector end-of-year report and presentation for detailed analysis and additional information relating to that portion of the AIS program. For 2025, the district-wide AIS program funding was $166,467, whereas the 2025 AIS program expenses totaled $184,887. One of the largest expenditures was for curlyleaf pondweed, resulting from the requirement for a more expensive herbicide being utilized. A brief background for this is that in 2025, the DNR used a new strain of walleye fry which are susceptible to dicot. This nearly doubles the cost of any treatment area and will likely be an ongoing consideration to account for when planning future AIS management efforts. The first lake that we'll take a closer look at is Moody Lake. Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District has 3 main focuses at Moody: the aeration system, curlyleaf pondweed, and a native planting conducted with the University of Minnesota in 2023. Once dissolved oxygen levels fell below 5 parts per million threshold, the aeration system was operated from February 13th until March 17th. The map pictured here is from the Blue Water Science Initial Curlyleaf Pondweed Delineation Survey. Mostly light growth was observed and no treatment was recommended or performed. It is worth noting that 2020 was the last year that any curlyleaf pondweed treatments have occurred for Moody Lake. The available Moody Lake AIS funding for 2025 was $2,000 and was covered by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District levy. The point intercept surveys, however, conducted by Blue Water Science came in at a cost of $3,200, which does exceed the initial budget. It is worth noting that a point intercept survey would be required by the DNR as the district has a variance for treatment if any curlyleaf pondweed management activities were to be required in the future. Progressing on to Bone Lake, the district has 4 main aquatic invasive species focuses for this lake, relating to curlyleaf pondweed, Eurasian water milfoil, zebra mussels, and watercraft inspections. The 2 figures on the right depict Blue Water Science initial delineation survey results for curlyleaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. In April, Blue Water Science performed a curlyleaf pondweed delineation which observed moderate to heavy projected growth for curlyleaf along the southwest shoreline of Bone Lake. This resulted in the recommendation and treatment of 3.66 acres, which occurred on May 8th and was conducted by Lake Management, Inc. This was followed up by an early June CLP treatment assessment and water milfoil delineation survey. Additionally, light Eurasian water milfoil growth was detected on the northern and southern shores, but would not likely impede water quality or recreational enjoyment. Pictured here is the Bone Lake Historical Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment Areas from 2014 until 2025 for both curlyleaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. This was the first year since 2021 that required a curlyleaf pondweed treatment, which was of similar size and treatment area from what has previously been observed. It's worth noting that Bone Lake has not required any Eurasian water milfoil treatments since 2016. In 2025, several Bone Lake residents volunteered to host a sampler plate on their property. No zebra mussels were found on any of the sampler plates or water-related equipment. The Watercraft Inspection Program performed 535 inspections over the course of 542 hours. For greater details, see the 2025 Watercraft Inspection Program report. The Bone Lake AIS budget funding for 2025 was $18,250. $13,250 was funded by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District levy, which can be further broken down into $7,750 for the watercraft inspection program, and $5,500 for the AIS management. $2,000 is from the Scandia Lions Club, $1,000 from the Bone Lake Association, $1,000 from the City of Scandia, and the final $1,000 from the Washington County AIS Prevention Grant for watercraft inspection. Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District AIS program expenses totaled $17,957, with the majority being used for watercraft inspections, which totaled $12,737. The remaining $5,220 was used to conduct delineation and assessment surveys for Eurasian water milfoil, curly-leaf pondweed, along with the corresponding curly-leaf pondweed treatment. Moving on to Little Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District has three primary focuses at this lake, relating to curly-leaf pondweed, Eurasian water milfoil, and AIS early detection and tracking. Blue Water Science and district staff performed a macrophyte meander survey on August 1st. Historically, this task has been conducted by district staff, but bringing in Blue Water Science with their expertise was an educational and informative opportunity for staff to continue growing in their aquatic plant knowledge base. Similar to previous years, no funding was originally budgeted for Little Comfort. However, with a meandering survey being conducted by Blue Water Science and staff, the expenses for 2025 were $900. Traveling further south in the district, we arrive at Shields Lake. Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District has two primary AIS focuses for Shields Lake relating to the aeration system and curly-leaf pondweed. The aeration system was operated for approximately a month from the dates of February 13th until March 17th, when seasonal changes no longer made this necessary. Blue Water Science performed an initial curly-leaf pondweed delineation April 25th. Several areas with potential heavy growth were observed, but no treatment was recommended to promote native aquatic plant growth. The available Shields Lake aquatic invasive species funding for 2025 was $2,000 and was covered by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District levy. Similar to Moody Lake, the point intercept survey conducted by Blue Water Science was $3,200, which does exceed the initial budget. Again, it is worth noting that a point intercept would be required by the DNR, as the district has a variance for treatment if any curly-leaf pondweed management activities were to be required in the future. Moving on to Lake Keewatin. Following the district's 10-year plan, Blue Water Science and staff performed a full macrophyte point intercept survey to assess aquatic plant biodiversity. Overall, staff observed a great amount of biodiversity of native aquatic vegetation. Additionally, staff performed a shoreline assessment of purple loosestrife with the purpose of locating future sites suitable for biocontrol management efforts. The available Lake Keewatin aquatic invasive species funding for 2025 was $3,700 and was covered by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District levy. However, the point intercept macrophyte survey conducted by Blue Water Science was $2,500, which was 100% of the total expenses for 2025. Progressing to Forest Lake. Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District has several main focuses at this body of water, relating to aquatic invasive species management. Let's begin by examining curly-leaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. 167.44 acres of curly-leaf pondweed was initially surveyed by Blue Water Science during the delineation that occurred in April. Lake Management Inc. performed a treatment on May 22nd. A new herbicide was required to be used, as a new strain of walleye fry, which are susceptible to dicot, our usual herbicide, had been stocked by DNR's fisheries. Note, this does nearly double the cost of any treatment area. This was followed up in June with an assessment survey that determined the treatment was effective within the delineated areas. Additionally, Blue Water Science performed an Eurasian water milfoil delineation June 20th, which detected 47.37 acres that was recommended for treatment. The majority of the Eurasian water milfoil observed was in Basin 1. However, several survey points detected Eurasian water milfoil for the first time in Basin 3, as seen in the Blue Water Science survey map on the bottom right. Moving on to flowering rush management activities for Forest Lake. Several surveys were performed by Blue Water Science with treatments conducted by PLM occurring in between. As the population of flowering rush in Forest Lake can spread by seed, district staff conducted seed head removals throughout the growing season. The full list of activities can be observed here, but overall, flowering rush growth was reduced throughout the 2025 growing season, likely due to higher water levels resulting in decreased suitable growing conditions. Additionally, treatments combined with seed head clippings provided good control throughout the entire growing season. Pictured here is the Forest Lake Historical Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment Areas from 2009 until 2025 for both curlyleaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. For 2025, curlyleaf pondweed abundance has severely increased after several years of declining. Multiple factors could be contributing to this, such as seasonal conditions, later ice on or earlier ice off dates, and even possibly improved water quality and clarity, which could be contributing to potential increased light penetration of the water column. However, Eurasian water milfoil population density remains similar to what was observed in 2024, but as mentioned previously, it was the first observation of milfoil in Basin 3. Fortunately, none was observed in Basin 2, where it was found for the first time in 2024. On the bottom is the historical flowering rush pre- and post-treatment acreage that has been operating since 2014. Overall, we are observing a decrease in overall abundance for flowering rush. Staff also performed a shoreline assessment of purple loosestrife with the purpose of locating future sites suitable for biocontrol management efforts. 5 zebra mussel sampler plates were deployed on Forest Lake. Observations indicate that both population density and size have reduced from previous years. Zebra mussels were first discovered in Forest Lake in 2015. Previous reports have stated that it is expected densities will continue to rise over the upcoming years, then potentially crash after reaching a peak. The Watercraft Inspection Program performed 4,743 inspections over the course of 2,458.75 hours. For greater details, see the 2025 Watercraft Inspection Program report. The Forest Lake Aquatic Invasive Species budget funding for 2025 was $110,992. Of that, $176,500 was funded by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District levy, which can be broken down into $34,500 for the Watercraft Inspector Program and $42,000 for the management of aquatic invasive species. $25,491.95 was obtained from the City of Forest Lake through the Tri-Party Agreement. $18,884 was from the Washington County Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Grants, which can be broken down into $9,000 for the Watercraft Inspector Program, $4,940 for the management of curlyleaf pondweed, and $4,942 for the management of flowering rush. The Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District Aquatic Invasive Species Program's expenses totaled $139,793. The largest expense was $81,927, which was for the management of curlyleaf pondweed. Due to a new strain of walleye fry being stocked by the DNR, the district was required to use a more expensive herbicide that nearly doubles the cost of enemy treatment area. $41,895 was utilized for the Watercraft Inspection Program. $12,771 was for the management of flowering rush. And finally, $3,300 was for the initial delineation of Eurasian water milfoil. I won't read through the entire tri-party agreement between the City of Forest Lake Lake Association, and Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. However, we did want to recognize that their activities and contributions are essential for maintaining the quality and quantity of aquatic invasive species management on Forest Lake. Pictured here is a tri-party agreement 2025 activities from City of Forest Lake Lake Association, and Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. Please feel free to pause the slide to examine them closer. Pictured here is the tri-party graph for all expenses for 2025 regarding AIS management with Forest Lake partners, which include the City of Forest Lake Lake Association, and Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. The 2025 financial result of the tri-party agreement resulted in the City of Forest Lake paying the Forest Lake Lake Association $8,997.16 and the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District $25,491.95. With our final stop, we arrive at Comfort Lake. Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District has four main focuses relating to aquatic invasive species management: curly-leaf pondweed, zebra mussels, Eurasian water milfoil, and watercraft inspections. The initial curly-leaf pondweed delineation performed by Blue Water Science on April 8th found that a lot of the sample points detected no curly-leaf pondweed, with a few light potential growth areas identified. I should have mentioned this earlier, but there are also DNR regulations that require early surveys, which can always create the potential for curly pondweed growth later in the season, as treatments are limited to the first 4 weeks after ice off or until water temps reach 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, whichever is later. Eurasian water milfoil delineation performed by Blue Water Science in July detected several areas of light milfoil growth, which would not impede water quality or recreational enjoyment. Though on the northern shoreline there are several survey points with light growth, which would potentially require future management. Pictured here is the Comfort Lake Historical Aquatic Invasive Species Treatment Area from 2014 until 2025 for both curly-leaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. As mentioned before, no treatment for curly-leaf pondweed or Eurasian water milfoil occurred in 2025. In 2025, the Comfort Lakes Association participated in a zebra mussel monitoring program being piloted by the University of Minnesota. As the university researchers transition into looking at long-term population trends, district staff will continue to communicate with them with the purpose of ensuring that any data collected through our own monitoring efforts will be able to contribute to growing our collective understanding of what environmental factors are influencing zebra mussel populations. The watercraft inspection program on Comfort performed 4,743 inspections over the course of 2,458.75 hours. For greater detail, see the 2025 Watercraft Inspection Program report. The Comfort Lake Aquatic Invasive Species budget funding for 2025 was $18,750. $13,250 was funded by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District levy. Breaking that down further, we had $7,750 for the Watercraft Inspector Program and $5,500 for the management of aquatic invasive species. $5,000 was from the Chisago County AIS Prevention Grant, and $500 was from the Bone Lake Lake Association. Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District Aquatic Invasive Species Program expenses totaled $16,707, with the majority being used for the Watercraft Inspection Program, totaling $13,207. The remaining $3,500 was used to conduct delineation and assessment surveys for Eurasian water milfoil and curly-leaf pondweed, though no treatments were recommended or conducted in 2025. As mentioned before, district staff performed purple loosestrife assessment surveys while out in the field with the purpose of implementing a future loosestrife beetle biocontrol management following DNR guidelines. 3 sites with suitable conditions have been identified with large stands for sustaining beetle populations and easy access locations. Forest Lake Public Launch 3 was the first. Keewatin on the southern bay along Highway 97 and Keewatin Ave, the second, and Shallow Pond, which is adjacent to the Hawk Meadow Park Trail system, was the third. District staff have confirmed and identified several native and non-native Phragmites populations while out in the field. Non-native Phragmites stands have been reported to the EDD maps application that the DNR and MASRIC use for determining potential future treatment locations.